Toady, what up, man? How we doing?
GM. I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
There we go.
I love when we get the streamers or the people who always podcast on, because it's such an easy. It sounds good. It looks good. It's easy to get going.
And then you get the guests sometimes where it's like, "Thank you for joining on a potato. I appreciate it."
Yeah.
Running around New York and dealing with construction and the potato camera. It's a different type of flavor though, so we like it all.
Yeah.
We like it all.
Well, I do have a 10-month-old in the house and a rabid dog, so you may hear some things, but we'll try to keep it professional.
We're used to that as well. No problem. So you're the founder of Zero Rates Media, which is an open source on-chain content collective, and Betrmint, which is a popular mini app on Farcaster and Base app that turns the act of supporting on-chain creators into a gamified live event. So I went to play with the product this morning, and you were number one on the number one rank on Farcaster, which made it very easy to find. So congrats on that.
But who's counting, right?
Who's counting? I mean, it feels good. It feels good.
It does feel good. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about what Betrmint is and how the mechanics work?
Yeah, maybe I can sort of start by, the impetus for building it in the first place and like why we thought Betrmint was something that was needed. So as you mentioned, I founded a collective called Zero Rates Media, which basically concentrates on making media about on-chain life, but also, being a proponent of putting all that content on chain, which is something I know you guys are working on a lot as well. But as you also probably know, it's very difficult for creators to monetize their content on chain. We're very early, and so we spent a lot of time thinking about how to do that. I was lucky enough to be part of Adam Levy's Blueprint cohort last year, towards the end of the year, and he taught us a lot about some interesting strategies for using tokens to incentivize certain collector behaviors. Learned a lot there, but one thing I noticed is that if you didn't have a lot of distribution from the hop, if you didn't have a big following and whatnot, it can be difficult to use some of these protocols like Boost, for example, or Layer 3, because you can add $1,000 worth of degen or $1,000 worth of hire or whatever to a contract to incentivize minting. But it's kind of like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, if you don't have distribution to drive people to that incentive, then it doesn't really work. So the thought process behind Betrmint was, first of all, really wanted to build a mini app. Had seen the amazing things people were doing with mini apps on the Base app and on Farcaster, and really wanted to do one of my own. Secondly, I was just thinking, what if we could take this concept of like using tokens as incentive and instead give it a little bit of urgency, a little bit of dopamine, give people a reason to put it in their calendar and show up and actually collect the stuff to get the rewards. So that's the idea behind Betrmint. Essentially, 3 games a week at least, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. EST. People kind of rush into the app. They collect a piece of content. It can be a content on Blueprint, so an NFT, or it can be a paragraph or a Zora coin. People collect it, and then they get a chance every time they collect an edition or a coin. They get 1 free ticket to spin this neon flywheel and win back some tokens as a bonus. And so it just kind of gives people a reason to show up and support collectors, because that's kind of like my North Star with this project, is that people do want to support collectors or creators rather. They do want to collect their content, but they need to be given a reason to show up and do it.
Those things seem opposed to me. If they really want to collect their content, why do they need a different reason to show up and collect their content?
You tell me, but it does seem to be the case that I think it's just like attention being so scarce that, you need a way to break through and get them into that zone where they're like, yeah, for sure, I'll spend $3 to patronize this creator. A little bit of dopamine doesn't hurt either. Humans do love dopamine. It's in our DNA to seek that dopamine rush. And so if you can kind of gamify that and leverage that in a way that also helps creators, I think that's okay.
Yeah, variable rewards are fun. And I think the idea of distribution tools like Boost and Layer 3 have been very, very valuable to a lot of people. And I think introducing like a gamification or variable reward version of that makes a ton of sense.
Well, there's I think like the time-bound piece of it too. Like I think people are starved for some interesting, engaging thing to go do at a specific time. I think we've seen that with Crypto the Game. It was obviously HQ Trivia back in the day. Every new ICO token launch, have fun.
Yeah, I would say a big influence on that front came from nouns as well. I spent a lot of time in the nouns, distribution economy, and I know like one of the biggest, I guess, benefits of nouns and how they've grown their community is this organic 1 auction per day, every day, slow growth. And I think just that idea of like do something fun on chain every day is very powerful. So that was definitely an influence in how we designed this app as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk about nouns a little bit. Maybe before we do, curious what the kind of traction and usage numbers look like so far, and also interested in kind of the bigger vision and how big you think this thing can get.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty blown away by the reception. To be honest with you, me and my co-founder NetNose, we just kind of built this as an MVP, and let's just see what happens, as often is the case with Farcaster mini apps and projects. And it just immediately had traction. We launched a token as well via Clanker at the same time, $Better, and that got some good traction out of the gate as well. But yeah, we've been seeing. I think we just finished 3 months since launch, which is crazy. It's gone by pretty fast. And I think we've done over $115,000 in volume over that time, transaction volume. And more importantly to me anyway, we've also been able to reward our featured creators over $35,000 in creator rewards too, which is, I think, really significant in sort of a time in the market where creators are struggling to figure out, ways to be paid for their creativity.
Well, yeah, let's go to nouns, because I think a thing, what is old is new again. Maybe that's the ETH, the way I'd frame up the ETH narrative right now. Nouns launched, sort of back then in the last cycle to a lot of fanfare and excitement, and it's had, just a bunch of entertainment since, probably for better for worse. But I think if I come check in today, we're still, the sort of daily NFT auction that gives one governance over an almost $7 million treasury right now, still chugging along. I think on August 10th, we had what do we got here? We got around 1 ETH sort of wins here, or bids that are winning. So treasury continues to grow. But I would say that most people would probably see this, had some idea of this maybe not actually working, despite the fact that it is continuing to work. So yeah, is there a way for you to catch us up on what's happened there? And are you still bullish nouns?
Yeah, I'm bullish, like small n nouns. That's what I've been saying to people, is like I'm small n nounish, because I think like nouns is definitely like a way of thinking. It's just like almost like a weird version of Ethereum in a way. That's the way I've always seen it. Like a lot of the same first principles as Ethereum, open source, just collaborative mindset, public, positive sum mindset. Those are all things that attracted me and many of my friends to nouns. But also, nouns is a DAO, and it's not a LARP. It's a real DAO that like basically has emergent value sets, because the membership of the DAO is constantly changing. So I've been involved in nouns since 2021, and many of us who have seen many of these, what we call seasons, like just seasons of different people that come in. The reality is if when you can buy votes in a governance system, you can influence the way the culture changes. And so I'll be quite frank with you right now, I don't super vibe with the way nouns is going from a culture perspective, but that's okay, because like nouns is not for me, it's for everybody. And I still consider myself nounish. I still have a lot of gratitude in my heart for nouns and what it's given to me and others in the space. And I think it's cool that people are continuing to experiment with something on chain, and the fact that it still exists in 2025. You're not going to find many projects from 2021 that are still alive and kicking and still have this kind of mimetic energy. So
Especially DAOs. Yeah.
Especially DAOs. Yeah.
I mean, what is the direction that the culture's going?
Yeah, not to get too deep into it, but I guess basically the people who have most of the tokens now are more interested in bringing nouns in more of like a tech incubator kind of direction, which I think is kind of cool. But just in my opinion, there's like so many of those already, and it's not something super interesting for nouns to do. I always kind of thought it was better for nouns to fund things that like don't have a very obvious ROI and are just kind of weird. And actually, nouns has gotten a lot of flack over the years for doing that kind of stuff. Like, why would you fund this, crazy thing? Well, it's like, well, because nobody else is doing it and it's kind of fun. And so, yeah. And then balancing that with like supporting public goods, like, nouns was one of the only orgs that stepped up, bigly and supported the Storm case. And like a lot of these important things that have happened, nouns has stepped up as a public goods sponsor too, which I think is also important. But those were always the two things that really attracted me most to nouns, versus like, I don't know, trying to be like an early stage investor in projects. Because I just feel like, how can a DAO even really compete with top down controlled VCs and these types of things? But
yeah, it does seem like the lack of value capture, or like a clear value capture narrative, has always kind of been the core challenge there. Even if you look at things that we have today that are doing really well, like Rect or Pudgies, even though they're trading at absurd multiples of the actual value capture, I think the existence of it still feels very important.
I think it's more that both those things recognize that they're meme coins, and I think Nouns is actually a meme coin using that
Right.
very broad category. And because I remember, I was talking to Jacob from Zora about this because he was an early Nouns member and contributor, and he's like giving the example of like talking about the Uniswap token and using money to just run the foundation versus putting up 1,000-foot sculpture of a unicorn in Times Square and thinking what would have more of an impact on the token price, right? And I think at least I think it's pretty clear that the huge unicorn in the middle of Times Square might drive a lot more, right? And so this idea
and yet crypto Twitter would probably argue with you on that.
Well, for sure they would do that, but they don't really know what, right? And so yeah, I think Josh's point is correct. Like you need to sort of feed that part of the token holder where there needs to be some value capture. But I don't think value capture. I mean, so I saw a great tweet today where if you sort of look at where all the top tokens are today, these things don't have revenue. These things aren't doing buybacks, right? And they're Lindy mimetic tokens. And yes, there needs to be a narrative around it. And I think there was a fairly a strong potential narrative here where if you go and do weird things that are about generating new attention and the mechanism continues to roll on, that should see some potentially a accrual to it. I think one of the challenges seemed to have been that as an individual holder of these tokens, you have a very difficult time getting liquid around it. And so it moves it away from something where I might want to make more of a speculative, investment in it into something where I'm making maybe more of like an ideological or maybe the speculative investment is that I need to come in and try to capture governance in some way. I don't know. It's been a fascinating one for me because I think solved a bunch of the problems that I think we saw in DAOs and also has, I think, failed to get away from the ultimate core challenge, which is kind of difficult to coordinate, even if you have great coordination tools.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah. And I think also one of the things I've noticed over time, and I'm curious what the founders of Nouns would say about this, but I wonder if like the theory of value capture for NFTs as like a founder reward, if they would agree that was the best way forward. Because in my eye, looking at it, I think maybe there could have been a better way for the founders to be aligned and incentivized to continue building, because ultimately they just got tokens. And like when Nouns were 20, 30, 40, even 60 ETH, maybe they could sell one or two here and there to pay some bills. But over time they just get fudded for every time they'd sell. And so this like really elegant design in terms of like alignment ended up maybe kind of like kneecapping a little bit of like being able to actually incentivize people to continue to grow the community. But maybe that was by design though. Maybe they just maybe they wanted the community to be able to sort of step in and take over. And that was why. I don't know.
I mean, I've had deep appreciation for new and novel things, and this really tickled that fancy. And I would have definitely been a Nouns holder if I had the gazillions of ETH that was required in the early days to come in. And
right.
Yeah. You got another question here, Josh? I feel like I'm just going to go down a Nouns rabbit hole here, and I'm really talking to Toady here, who's he's got a Noun as the PFP, but this is maybe not.
You can't see; it's kind of blurry. I got the noggles in the background, but it's kind of blurred out. So you can't really see it.
No, I mean, like Toady, what do you want to leave people with? Obviously, go play with the product. I think is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday? You guys go live.
Yeah, so find us on Farcaster first and foremost. It is a Farcaster mini app, or you can find us on the base app. Love it. You got noggles closer at hand than I do, so I feel
we're ready, baby.
Love it. But yeah, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Farcaster or on the base app, go and find the app. Like you said, should be easy to find right now because we're currently #1 trending on the list of mini apps. You might be a bit confused when you jump in there when there's not a round. So just want to reiterate that like, unless you're there when at the time of the game, you're just going to see the previous game's information, which is great. You can still like check out the content that we featured, check out the coin that partnered with us. But if you really want to experience it, you got to be ready at like 3 p.m. EST on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. Jump in, have some fun, collect some content, and support a creator.
Nice. And if you're a creator or a coin owner and want kind of the distribution of the platform, is there a forum, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do have a form that just DM me. DM me, I guess, is probably the easiest way at this point. We do see ourselves as like simultaneous curation of content and coins or projects. So if you're a creator and you create on Zora, or you create on Paragraph, or you are an NFT creator, artist, get in touch, and we'd be happy to talk about featuring something that you make, and like giving you kind of like this moment with our community where like, it's been really impactful for creators when they see their art go live or their content go live on chain, and then they see hundreds of people rush in within 15 minutes and mint all their content, and they make money. They make $600 or $700 in creator rewards, and they're just like, wow, this hasn't happened to me since 2021. And so it's been a cool experience that way. And then on the flip side too, a lot of our project partners have been pretty happy with it too, because I kind of have been talking about this as in terms of like distribution via distribution, where like, if you have a token project, you're not going to dump your tokens, or hopefully you're not going to dump your tokens on your own community. So you need to always be thinking of novel ways to distribute them to new people, new eyeballs, new attention. And people are doing that by like apps like Noise, where they're tipping them out to people on Farcaster, which is cool to see, or they're doing airdrops via Banker. And I think Betrmint can be another tool where you're able to sort of take a small allocation of your token, find new people whose wallets will be graciously receptive to those tokens, and then get some eyeballs in your project.
My wallet is so graciously acceptable to awesome tokens. I love it.
Right?
All right. Thanks, Toady. Appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah.
Notifications on for Betrmint if you want to go jump in and give it a shot. And Toady's a good DM no matter what. He's a good DM. So hit him up.
Down to chat.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Okay, cheers.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Peace.
Bye.